San Diego Comic-Con. Wow. It's a happening. I mean, I don't do this very often.
Really? I feel like you do it all the time.
No, you have to define often.
Oh, all right.
But this is the big time. San Diego Comic-Con is where it's at.
All right.
And I'm glad to see all of you.
So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions before we start reading the excerpts.
Yes, David.
And my life is fulfilled. The question you always get, which I think is a terrible question, could you have seen, did you know that Star Trek was going to be this thing? I think it's a terrible question. That's not the question I'm going to ask.
Oh, thank God.
But 50 years out, looking back,
Yes.
do you understand? Do you understand why, do you think you have a perspective on why this thing existed, why the work you did and the work that everybody did lasted as long as it did and continues to be profound and popular?
No.
Good.
One of the answers, when asked that question all through the years, I would reply, it was the quality of the show, the writing, maybe it was me.
Definitely.
And then I began to examine it more closely. I wrote a book called Get a Life, and I thought, I examined the audience, and I began to understand that people came to conventions to see each other. There was a community there. And then I did a documentary on it, and I came to understand that people go to science fiction cons because there's a mythology involved. And science fiction has a mythological component to it in which it's placed in the future, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen. The writers seek to give you an answer, and that answer may please you or not, but if it does, you subscribe to it, and you begin to honor it, and now it becomes part of your mythology.
That's a pretty good answer.
I don't know what it means.
I'm gonna shift though. I'm kind of curious. Everybody always talks about the great Star Trek episodes. I'd like to sort of keep talking a little bit about the terrible ones, because there are some bad ones. Let's admit. And
But Leonard was, only one guy said, "Oh," the rest laughed.
That's all that matters. If you get one laugh, that's not enough, but you want at least 1%. The fact is, though, for the audience, the character of Kirk, this thing that you create, in a terrible Star Trek episode, is still the same character that he is in a good episode. What's that process as an actor when a writer lets you down, that you can keep the integrity of the character? Do you understand what I'm saying? That you mean
when an actor gets a bad script,
right?
What does he do?
Well, but more importantly,
besides weep.
There's that. But then the fact is,
because you can always say, my character wouldn't do that.
Right.
And then the producer says, well, my character won't pay you, And that ends the argument very, very quickly. A bad script is always hanging around. And as that actor said when they booed him off the stage for playing Hamlet, he says, I didn't write this shit,
I guess, though, my point is that Kirk as a character still ends up being good in the bad episodes.
Oh, how nice. When did that happen, David?
I don't know. When we did I'm sure you don't remember, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. When we did the Futurama episode, we were, you have no recollection. It's fine. We had lunch.
Do I know you?
I went back to your hotel. Anyway,
I told you not to tell.
We had you doing a scene where you were doing a bad script, and the idea was you were supposed to be doing it badly, and you got a little annoyed at me because you said, I've spent my whole life acting in horrible things. I'm not going to denigrate myself as an actor. I'm still going to try and do it well. So I have some, I feel like that's a good transition to you maybe reading these excerpts, because no matter what you think of them, you will try to.
You want me to read excerpts from your book?
Yes, please, Captain.
I would be delighted to read excerpts from your book.
Thank you. So this first excerpt takes place a short time after one of Kirk's first postings aboard the Farragut, where an event referenced in the show, half the crew has died, Kirk has blamed himself. He is, thank you, Obsession is the name of the episode, you win. He's he's temporarily posted to Starbase and runs into someone important.
Hello, Jim, she said. I'd met Carol Marcus at the Academy, where she worked as a lab assistant while she finished her doctorate in molecular biology. We had a short, casual fling that came to an end when I graduated. Upon seeing her, I was immediately sorry it hadn't continued. She was very attractive, blonde, petite, which I guess was my type. Actually, what wasn't my type? And very smart. In the intervening years, Carol had gotten her doctorate and was now part of a research project using Starfleet facilities at the base. I felt myself drawn to her immediately, and she was warm and attentive, flattered by my renewed interest, and our relationship reignited. That's what I said. The restaffing of the Farragut dragged on for weeks, and I didn't mind. I would serve a shift on the Farragut for 8 hours a day, then return to the Starbase, where Carol and I would spend the rest of our time. I moved into her apartment, and we had a rapport that was both passionate and easy. We spent our free time rock climbing and horseback riding. I loved every moment of it, too. We'd cook together and read together, and I stopped drinking as much, and the nightmares, though they didn't go away, completely faded. I was settled and happy, and I didn't want it to end. Will you marry me? I said one morning while we were still in bed. Jim, she said, well, what? I want to marry you, I said. I want to be with you. Jim, I love you, but I can't leave my work. Then I'll leave mine, I said, and thought I meant it. I'll ask for a base posting. We can make this work. I want to have a family with you. It's what I want too, she said, and kissed me. And I called the ship and asked one of the junior officers to cover my shift, and we stayed together all day, rock climbing and horseback.
You can sell a lot of copies of the book this way.
Who knew it was porn? The next morning I arrived for my shift on the Farragut. The ship was busier now. As chief navigator, I also had crewmen who reported to me. I saw Commander Kodo in his quarters, and I told him I wanted reassignment to the Starbase. He looked at me in weary acceptance. He had known about my relationship with Carol and said he'd been expecting this. Look, Jim, he said, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it, but you're an exceptional Starfleet officer. Assuming I get command, I'm going to need men like you I can rely on to help me protect the lives of this crew. I'm sorry, sir, I said. I've made up my mind. But I hadn't. I had committed myself to Carol, and that's what drove me to say what I said. But Kodo had an effect, and I felt a responsibility to help him and the crew. Kodo asked me to at least delay my transfer until the final replacements arrived, which would still be a few weeks, and I agreed. As time went on, I became more conflicted about my decision. I was enjoying my time with Carol, but I felt the pull of life aboard the ship, and as new crewmen reported to the Farragut, I became cognizant of my importance. A lot of them were fresh from the Academy, and though I had been out less than 2 years, I was surprised that the experiences, even in that short a time, gave me a wealth of knowledge to share. I also found that in grieving for the loss of Captain Garovic and my shipmates, I had renewed my determination to serve, to correct the mistake I had made. I should have been talking about this to Carol, but I knew it would hurt her. A few weeks later, Farragut was almost completely restaffed. As I finished my shift, Commander Cotto came over to me. "I've received my promotion," he said. I congratulated him. He worked harder than anyone to get the ship back in shape, and I was glad he was rewarded. He then told me that the ship would be leaving in 2 days, and he wondered if I'd reconsidered my decision, as he still had not filled the position of chief navigator. It was still mine if I wanted it. I said I did. I left the ship, my heart heavy with the fact that now I had to break this news to Carol. I decided I would tell her everything I'd been thinking, that I needed this to close up my grief. I knew she would be hurt, but I thought she would understand, knowing what I'd been through. I didn't get the chance. When I walked in, she met me with a smile. "Jim, I'm pregnant," she said, as she fell into my arms. I was rock climbing and riding a horse. A child, especially when riding a horse. A child, I had not expected this. It was thrilling and confusing, and suddenly my self-centered arguments felt hollow. The idea of a baby was so overwhelming, so joyous, so intimidating, that I didn't know what to say. Carol, however, immediately sensed something was wrong. She stepped back and looked at me. She knew I had changed my mind about leaving. "I'll make it work," I said. "I promise." "That's exactly what you said you didn't want," she said through tears. "I know," I said, "but I love you. You said you hated your mother going away. You didn't want that for your kids." She had been listening to me talk about the pain of my childhood, but in that moment, I thought I could do things differently. I believed I could be there as a father and also do my job as a Starfleet officer. I would make it work. I loved her, and I wanted to have a family with her. "Let's have this baby," I said. "I'll be there for you."
As much as you were making fun of it, it was still pretty good. This next section is Kirk taking command of the Enterprise.
Kirk taking command of the Enterprise.
For the first time.
"Welcome to the Enterprise, Captain," Christopher Pike said, and I stepped off the transporter and shook his hand. I was struck by how tall he was. Much taller than me. Everybody is, actually. He greeted me with a friendly smile, and there was camaraderie about the way he said "Captain." I felt like I was joining a very exclusive club. "I think you know our transporter operator," Pike said, and I saw a familiar face at the console. "Mr. Scott," I said, "need someone to carry your toolkit?" "Show me your toolkit, Mr. Scott." We shook hands warmly. I knew Scott had been transferred to the ship as an engineer, and I was thrilled. This was one bit of luck I would never take for granted, and I was make sure that he was permanent. "Thanks for the officer, Scott said, "but I've got plenty of help here already." He gave me a weary smile, and I noticed his eyes were a little bloodshot. "Rough night," I said. "Doing a little horseback riding and rock climbing?" "My going away party," Pike said. "Come on, we've got a lot to cover." Pike took me on a tour of the ship, giving me a rundown of the areas of the refit that weren't finished yet. It had been a while since I'd been on a Constitution-class ship, and its comfort was inviting. When we got to the bridge, it was twice the size of the Hotspurs. It felt like a living room. There were several familiar faces there. Lee Kelso was at navigation. Scotty had come up from the transporter room and was monitoring the engineering console, and Mr. Spock was at the science station looking into his viewer. Pike took me over to him. "Mr. Spock," Pike said, "this is Captain Kirk." Spock stood up from his viewer at attention. "We've had the pleasure." "At ease," I said. "He is," Pike said, smiling. Your record is very impressive, Mr. Spock, I said. I look forward to serving with you. Thank you, Captain Spock said. Please let me know if there's any way I can be of service. It sounded as though he had memorized it off a flashcard. At that moment, I wasn't sure I was ever going to be completely comfortable with that guy. Pike then continued on the tour. Scotty came with us to engineering. While down there, Pike waved over another officer to introduce me. I guess he didn't know we'd already met. It was Ben Finney. I politely cut off Pike's introduction by extending my hand. Good to see you, Ben, I said. I wasn't going to assume bad feeling. To my surprise, Ben smiled and shook my hand, albeit somewhat formally. Congratulations, sir, Ben said. Nice seeing you again. We talked briefly about Jamie, and then he excused himself to return to his post. It was difficult to tell how he was feeling about me. Ben acted properly, was even friendly. I hope this indicated my concern about serving with him was unfounded. Pike and I continued on, finally ending in Pike's quarters, which it took me a minute to realize would soon be mine. I'd forgotten how much larger a captain's quarters were on a Constitution-class ship. I'd gotten used to my stateroom on the Hotspur, which wasn't much more than a bed and a closet. Pike and I sat on opposite sides of the desk and went over specific members of the crew. He had recommended Spock for my first officer, but I wasn't comfortable enough with him to give him that position. I wanted to keep him on as science officer and asked Pike if Spock would care if someone was brought in over him. If he did, Pike said he'd rather die than let you know. He's all about the work. We then went through a few more. Pike's chief engineer was retiring. I was determined to give Scotty that position. Mark Piper from the Republic had replaced Pike's chief medical officer, Philip Boyce, who had died about a year before the end of Pike's mission. I could see that the loss had affected him. Pike said that the death of Boyce was the first sign that maybe it stayed in space too long. I probably need a break, Pike said, although he definitely sounded ambivalent. He started talking about the ship and how much it meant to him, but that the mission itself was much more trying than he ever expected. The Constitution-class ships were designed to operate without a net. You really are on your own. He had lost a lot of friends during the 10 years he'd been on the Enterprise. This job will rip the guts out of you, he said. You have no choice but to lean on people. This crew will become your friends. He took another long pause. And then they'll die. We sat in silence for a long moment. I didn't quite know what to make of that advice. I'd faced death of crewmen for my whole career, but I felt like answering would only make me appear weak, self-justifying, so I sat in silence until he was ready to move on. He then decided it was time to transfer command, and he ordered the ship's crew to report to the hangar deck. A few minutes later, I was part of a ceremony I'd witnessed only once. Pike and I stood at a podium near the bay doors, facing the 400 faces of the crew. Spock stood by, and Pike gave him a nod. "Attention to orders," Spock said, shouting. I'd never seen a Vulcan raise his voice. It was unnerving, but I suppose it was necessary serving aboard a starship. I stepped up to the podium, placed the tape of orders in the portable viewer that was set there, and read them. To Captain Christopher Pike, Commander USS Enterprise, you are hereby promoted to Fleet Captain and requested and required to relinquish command to Captain James T. Kirk as of this date. Signed, Hyakacho Nogura, Admiral Starfleet Command. I then returned to Pike. I relieve you, sir. I stand relieved, Pike said. He then went to the men's room. We shook hands. I'm not making fun of it. We shook hands, and I turned and looked at the faces, a familiar few. Scotty, Kelso, Mike Piper, Uhura, but they were quickly lost in an ocean of strangers. I'd never taken over a ship like this before. I had been serving on the Hotspur when I was given command, so I had already been working with everyone on that ship, and there was no need for a ceremony. Now I could see a lot of the crew members weren't looking at me, they looked at Pike. It was easy to read affection and admiration in their expressions. I was envious. It was ridiculous of me to expect anything from these people. It would be the hardest job in my life to win them over, since being a good captain meant doing nothing that was designed to win them over. I had to count on them to do their jobs and do my best to protect their lives, which, despite what Pike said, meant I couldn't let anyone be my friend. Thrust into command of the Hotspur, I felt alone, but not quite as alone as this. And then I saw an unexpected face in the crowd. Gary Mitchell was in the back. He must have come aboard, his duffel still on his shoulder. He gave me a conspiratorial grin and nodded. I smiled. All standing orders to remain in force until further notice, I said. Crew dismissed. Captain Pike came over one last time, shook my hand. Hope to see you again, he said. Good luck. I now will go to the men's room.
What do you think, Phil?
What I think, David, is immaterial. It's what they think, and I think they love it.
Oh, that's good.
On the other hand, I could be wrong.
Should we go right to the last one, I think?
It's up to you, my friend.
I think we want to leave some time for questions and answers. So well, this one's a little long. Let's go right to the epilogue.
Epilogue.
This is the epilogue of the book. It's short, sweet, no time for jokes.
I'm not going to joke. I'm taking this very seriously. Rock climbing and horseback riding. When I announced my retirement from Starfleet, a historian at Memory Alpha contacted me. He requested if I could collaborate with me on my autobiography. With no other projects on the horizon, I agreed. I sit now, having finished it. Tomorrow, they're christening that new enterprise. I'll be there, but there will be another captain in the command chair. I suppose the journey back through my memories has made me realize that perhaps I had retired too soon, because as long as I sat in that chair, I felt relevant. I have some regret that I could never figure out how to break the cycle of my life, finding relevancy in something besides Starfleet. I suppose that makes me like a lot of other people who really don't know how to change. My collaborator, upon reading an early draft, noted that he was surprised I didn't mention any of the commendations I received from Starfleet, and I had to examine that. I realized that the medals I have do remind me of my victories, and that's the problem. The Duke of Wellington said, "Nothing except a battle lost can be half as so melancholy as a battle won."
Do you understand that?
Nothing except a battle lost can be half so melancholy as a battle won.
Sometimes winning is not fun, is I think what he was saying. In a war, even if you win the battle, you feel like shit, I think is what the Duke of Wellington was saying.
Nothing except a battle lost. Too many people died for me to win those battles, and all those victories, I suppose, made it hard for me to connect, to foster relationships in a life. I just kept going back to being a captain. In that chair, I felt like I had accomplished a lot. It felt like I helped more people than I hurt. I hope it's true. And even as I sit here, this doesn't feel like an end. I realize 60 is not that old. He's a child. Starfleet may not want me, but maybe I can get a decommissioned ship. I could fill it with people like myself who still want to help but have been mustered out. We could set our own missions, help where we can, try to stay out of trouble, but also get into some trouble, like horseback riding and rock climbing. I laugh, the cycle, it's starting again. I'm not finished with the galaxy, not ready to walk away from command. I want more. Well then, who doesn't?
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I hope you'll all read the book with his voice in your head, along with his jokes.
And his.
There's a mic somewhere down somewhere. So if you want to make your way to the mic. Before I do that, though, I just want to compliment you on that documentary that you did, Chaos on the Bridge. If those of you haven't seen it, I recommend it. I just was curious how that came about.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much for mentioning that. Chaos on the Bridge. It's at Netflix, and it's all about the chaos that ensued in the first 2 years of the next generation. It's the best work I've done and my team has done, and I know you'll like it, so please look into it. The other thing I'd love you to look into is on Saturday, I'm debuting a new comic book, a cinematographic illustrated novel. It's a whole new idea. It's called Man of War. William Shatner's Man of War. Look it up. It's on Saturday afternoon near Chuck Jones Gallery, and I'll be at Chuck Jones Gallery as well. please take a look at it. It was really worthwhile.
And was that based on the book that you wrote a number of years ago?
Exactly. Comic book based on the book.
We have somebody at the mic. Let's hear your questions.
Incidentally, my name is Mike.
What a coincidence.
Who cares? I care, Mike. Speaking to the mic, Mike.
How does it feel to be at the location that inspired the original, wait for it, Get a Life sketch?
Feels real good.
Good question.
Mike, are you advancing on this, Mike, or do you mean to do us harm? Unfortunately, you're not speaking into the mic, Mike, so that's good.
Sit down, Mike, so we can see the guy behind you. Next question.
Hi, Mr. Shatner. My name is AJ, and I was just curious how you began your live tweeting of television shows and how it's affected your charity work.
What an interesting question that is. Social media is taking us by storm, and those of us over 20 don't really understand it. I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm still going, punching QWERTY up, and, you know, I got a 9-year-old who's doing it at Twinkle Toes. So it is what's happening today. I was at a meeting trying to get some show, sell a show, and the guy says, well, can you do 7-minute shows on Yahoo?
And that's like a line of dialogue.
7 minutes,
right?
Yeah, that's a line of dialogue. I just did 7 minutes a chapter here. 7-minute shows, a 6-second vine. I mean, the communication, the act of communicating is disintegrating, but at the same time, at the other end of it, there are people communicating on all these other social media. So I'm trying to stay relevant and getting all the help I can. Apropos of that, money is being raised. I run a charity called the Hollywood Charity Horse Show. It's a horse show at the end of April every year, last 30 years. In this period of time in which I've been tweeting, we have been able to get donations both in cash and in material that we auction off to raise an extraordinarily large amount of money that goes to help children. So the very act of communicating with people about needs and about wants and desires and how you can fulfill it on either asking or getting and asking, it's profound. The world is shaking. The world is changing and moving, and in order to keep up, that's one way.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes.
Are you really watching episodes of The 100?
No.
That's what I'm like a bit. It's like is he watching once?
I'm watching a lot.
You are watching a lot.
I just came back. I helped design a motorcycle in Chicago with American Wrench, and we drove. The hype was we were going to drive that newly designed motorcycle from Chicago to Los Angeles. This is 2 weeks ago, and it was never ready. You know, it was like getting the cut. The print is still wet, sort of thing. It wasn't ready. And finally, the unveiling, and even that was late. And finally, in front of 150 people, national press, international press, we unveiled this. Go to rivetmotors.com. You'll see what I mean. It's like nothing else you've ever seen. This motorcycle. I got in it, and a 500 horsepower engine. And it wouldn't go forward. Embarrassing. So we finally figured out what to do. We trucked it, and I rented a bike, and my wife and I made the drive. 8 days across the face of the United States. It was an incredible experience. I've shot a documentary on it, but I was tweeting all the time. Okay? We had a follow truck. I'm telling them what to do. I'm driving along. They're tweeting, stop, tweet. And it was exchanging this experience with the audience that follows me.
Thank you. Next question. Woman. Wow.
Hi, my name is actually Julia Kirk.
Come on. Actually, Julie Kirk.
It
Do they call you actually?
is. No. Sometimes Capitana, my Spanish teacher used to, but
But that's another story.
it is. My question is.
Could be
what-
more interesting than the one you're about to tell.
I think that depends on your answer.
Whoa! That got
Oh, good.
you. Yeah, good stuff.
What's your name? How old are you?
My question is actually, what aspect of James Kirk's background do you find the most interesting or is your favorite?
I gotta make this a very interesting question.
You got a problem.
Yeah, I got a problem. I wrote
A few books?
8
8.
Star Trek books.
I think I read all of them.
Did you really?
Maybe.
I've noticed there's some similarities in your book about.
Well,
I wrote 8
lawyers-
books based on my life. Paramount allowed me the freedom to continue the Captain Kirk character after he'd been killed in the movies. So I wrote several books based on what was happening in my life. So the aging process, where Captain Kirk gets older and
The women get younger.
the women get younger and smart-ass like this one. And that aging process is what I developed in the books. And I found that we started that in the films as the actors got older over the 10 years, I guess, of whatever it was, the decade of making the films. As we aged, we went into the aging process, wear glasses, getting silver in the hair and all kind of thing. I took it further. I went to his death and all the stuff in between. And that, to me, that human being that I was attempting to portray based something on what was happening to me in my life became sort of biographical material. I found that of interest to me.
Who's going to answer? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Connor, and I have a pretty simple question. In the past, you've read your own autobiographies for the audiobook. Are you going to think about doing it for this one?
Yeah, are you thinking of doing it for this one? Great question, Connor.
And this book, I mean,
I've never met him.
No, I
I've
understand.
never seen him before.
Nor have I, and I want to meet him. That question that I told you to ask, you did it very well. The question I wrote out, that's better line.
Yeah.
The question I wrote out for you, read it very well.
I don't know why this guy came to the panel.
I don't know. No, I hadn't considered it, but this is backed by Paramount, and they've got a lot of money.
They do have, there is some money, although maybe less than usual. But
Less than you? Shall I sell the stock?
no, I don't know anything. No one's approached him, but maybe one day. Thank you for the question, Connor.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
My name is John Roca. This is a really special honor to be in front of you, Mr. Shatner. This is my first time ever seeing you in person, and I've been a fan of yours since I was a kid.
Thanks.
And my father passed away in 2008, and you have kind of always been my connection in a way, because he was very similar to you as a person, as an actor, and in performances. So I guess I just wanted to tell you that. Thank you for being what you are, doing what you've done.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's very sweet.
that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
But so so sorry if I'm a little nervous. But I just wanted to ask you, why do you think the character of James T. Kirk still resonates generations upon generations upon generations? Are there certain characteristics or personalities, like traits that you think, keep him going for all of us? Because I
Meet testosterone. I understand your question. The discovery that all of this, I love science fiction because of the fact that you pretend you know what the future is going to hold. I've got to imagine everybody is tantalized by the prospect of the future and knowing that even though you may be young, that the amount of time you have on Earth is so small, so limited, that the future gets ahead of you and you're going to die before the real future, before the oceans rise, you're dead. But what's going to happen when the oceans rise? What will your kin be thinking and doing? And then further than that, will technology be able to close the gates around the harbors in New York and all the great cities and keep the oceans out like they do in Holland? And what will science do? And how will it be? And what will my children's children do about water and earth and food? And what will rockets be like? And will we discover life on other planets? And if that's so, what are the implications here on Earth? There's so many mysteries out there we don't know. There's a pyramid on Sirius. We don't know what it is. What is it? So you could speculate. Is it been left there by a past generation? Come on. It's filled with all this magic. And that's mythology. That's the explanation for things. The Greeks, when they found these big bones, they said, oh, big bones. There must have been a race of giants over there on those mountains that we've never been able to climb. A race of giants. That's an explanation. That's a mythology of those big bones. They didn't know they were dinosaur bones. They didn't know these huge bones belonged to animals that were alive 60 million years ago. They invented a thing. So we're inventing a whole life 400 years from now. Maybe we'll know what dark matter is, and we'll discover that there are 11 other universes all intermingling with ours, and we know nothing, and the speed of light is nothing. Maybe we'll discover all that. And the pinpoint of that, the hero, the face with the hero with 1,000 faces, is Captain Kirk.
That's a good answer.
What did I say?
I don't know. It was recorded by a bunch of people. We go into that later.
Play it back so we can discover what Wellington said about the...
I didn't make it up. He said it.
Well, what did it mean? What did that mean? I'm sad that I lost a battle.
You just told
Losing
me...
a battle is as sad as winning a battle?
No, he said... You just...
Why would you even quote that when you don't understand it?
I didn't know you didn't understand it.
I didn't know you didn't know that I didn't understand it.
You just told me this story about meeting the veterans across country and the look in their eyes.
Yes.
These are men who survived war, who won, and yet they're lost. There's still this sort of...
No, he's not talking about soldiers. He's talking about himself. That the melancholy of losing a battle is...
How do you know he's talking about himself? He's saying...
Because he said it.
He's saying losing a battle is definitely worse than winning a battle.
He doesn't say that at all.
Yeah, let's look at the words. I hope someone's filming this. It's all right. Well, there are gaps in your education. We'll go to the next question.
Let's see. If I do the audio, how much would that cost?
Next question.
Hi, my name's Christina.
I,
My question for both of you is at what point...
Question for me, wow.
Yeah, I know, right? For both of you, the question is at what point, if any, do you start imagining a broader backstory for a character that goes past the script?
Well, I think that it's sort of what Bill was talking about in terms of mythology. I mean, I think one of the attractions of things like Star Trek and many other sort of things in pop culture that have big fan bases is this desire for fans to fill in the blanks. And so I think with any kind of good writing in television, in books, in movies, the person who's writing and then people who participate in the creation of that, create a world that doesn't just exist for that 1 hour of television or the 2-hour movie or that one book, but create a world that leaves things unanswered. There's a great essay by an author named Michael Chabon about fan fiction, and he talks about Sherlock Holmes and how Conan Doyle left gaps, and yet implied there were other cases, or what happened to Dr. Watson's arm or leg, and that fans want to fill that in. So I think it starts with talented people, talented writers who create a world that the rest of us, other writers, fans, what have you, want to participate in, and that's where you start to try to fill in a backstory. That's my feeling about it.
in order to for an actor to learn the words, I mean, people who are not acquainted with the job of acting don't fully comprehend the work involved in memorizing. I mean, in a television show, the leading actors are learning 10 pages a day, learning to say, and not hesitantly, but with full conviction that they know the words, which they barely have learned. One method of learning those words is to invent a backstory. So each of those words has a meaning to it. So if you were to use the word love, which has infinite variety, you would make that word specific to that sentence, to that character, to that moment by inventing whatever it is necessary to support the learning of the word love, or continuing paragraphs of that kind. Did you understand that? More than you did the Wellington?
Not equal. It was equal. Did that answer your question? Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is John Cooley, and as important
He's
as
got your jacket.
I love it. It's a red jacket. It's going to disappear very soon.
It's yours?
Okay.
Actually, my question is kind of about costuming. It's wardrobe. As important as it is for an actor to have good sides, to have good dialogue, to have a good story, as a leading man, I would think you cared every time you walked out on stage how you looked. And I'm curious to know, do you or did Captain Kirk have a favorite uniform, whether it was the green thing from Bill Tice or Bob Fletcher's, Wrath of Khan uniforms? I mean, did you have a favorite?
Yeah, well, it was a little embarrassing after lunch to have that tight green thing all over you. A little gas pain.
Yeah, sure.
It shows up immediately. Keep tugging that thing down.
Yeah.
So the more drape, the better, I always felt later on. I thought Bill Tice was one of the great designers in films. He was incredible, much unheralded, I think. He didn't get enough attention for his women's dresses and his men's spectacular uniforms. We were very happy with the limited budget we had, with the way the costumes were designed. I was very proud of it indeed.
Actually, You're talking about acting, and I remember this story that I remember you told about when you look back and you decided you wanted to be an actor, and it related to a story about performing in front of your father.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell that story? It's a great story, and I feel like a lot of people haven't heard it. That you were a child and you were performing.
Well, I was at a summer camp. 2 weeks in the city kid goes to the Laurentian Mountains, the woods outside of Montreal, for a little summer thing, water and whatever. And they had a little. They put on a play. At the end of 2 weeks, the parents would come up and the kids in the camp, myself included, would put on a little play. The counselors would guide it. So I was playing a part of some kind and made the audience cry because of the nature of the nature of the material.
It was like a Holocaust play or something, wasn't it?
Something like that, and so it touched them, and they cried. And I came out and bowed, not understanding anything, and they were weeping. And then later on, my father took me up in his arms with great pride, said, "This is my boy Bill." And I never did anything.
Never looked back.
I never had another job. All I did was be a performer.
Well, that's great. Question.
Okay, hi. My name is Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
And I was wanting to know, did you come up with the take a bite out of the Lyme challenge, or where did you get the idea, and how did you support Lyme disease? Because I have it myself, and I'm curious.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What is the take? I haven't heard of it.
Well, Lyme.
Well, I know what Lyme disease is, but take the bite out of Lyme?
Well, it's try and cure.
No, I know. I get it. I get it. Out of this.
What exactly do you want to know?
Just keep talking. I just want you to keep talking.
You just want to.
I just want you to keep talking. Go ahead.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
I had intended to actually.
Oh, good. I'm not surprised.
No, it's not mine at all. I'm just furthering the message. It's a dreadful disease, and you didn't know you had it for the longest time, right? Yeah, it sneaks up on you, and then it becomes very hard to get rid of. I wish you well, my dear.
Thank you. You do a lot of charity work.
I do a lot of charity work. You people in the audience here to see us and hear the book and all that kind of thing have bequeathed on some of us celebrity. Mm-hmm. And it's a real gift, and I don't take it for granted. I treasure it, and I find it coin of the realm at times, where you can use celebrity to make something work, to help and abet something good. And you take this shallow thing called celebrity and increase its depth by doing good. It's profound.
Yeah. And appreciate it. Next question.
Hi, my name's Chris. Last year, there were a couple of rumors going around that you were going to be involved in the third J.J. Abrams universe Star Trek movie, and now it's been rewritten and the concepts have changed. So I'm wondering if you can provide any updates on your potential involvement or your thoughts on the rewriting process.
Well, I tell you, how do you know it's been rewritten then? Because where are you going? Oh, there's another mic there?
No, they moved him after, so someone else.
Oh, I see.
It's a process. They got a system.
The story, what you've asked has implications, okay? And we must further examine this.
Implications
because you may have an answer that I don't have.
Oh, I see.
By what?
Implications beyond you being in the movie, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, the question of it. So, when they were developing the first of J.J. Abrams' movies, he called and said, would I like to be in the movie? I said, oh, God, yeah. I really want to be in your movie. So he said, all right, but don't tell me. This was on the phone. I said, I'm not going to tell you. I was in Hawaii. I came back the next day from Hawaii, and a reporter at the airport said, I hear you're going to be in the next movie. I said, how do you know that? He said, well, I know the scene you're in, and I know the character. I said, how do you know that? He said, well, the director just told everybody. So I get a hold of Abrams, and I said, I thought you didn't want me to say it. No, he gets a hold of me, and he says, thanks for keeping your mouth shut. I come back, I said, I didn't say anything, because you're director. He said, well, then let's fire the director. The director left. The director was gone the next day. I don't know why. They said creative differences, but who knows why? So this reporter knew more about what the scene was, and it never happened, of course.
Yeah.
So, back to you, my friend. What do you know? Am I in the next movie? Tell me. I know nothing. He knows more than I do. What are you talking about? What do you know?
I don't think he does anything.
You don't know anything?
Sorry, he was asking. I think he was
quote about
do you
melancholy? Does he
I don't know
about
if
melancholy?
I don't know. This might. I'm gonna get you a book as a gift. Not any book, just because you read. I do have a question. Is it how weird is it that somebody else is playing Kirk? Is that horrible for you?
It's horrible. But he's wonderful. Damn him. He's young and he's handsome and he's rich. Oh my God, is he rich? Young, talented, and rich.
Well, you got two of those.
Yeah. He's terrific. I'm very proud of him. He's a great kid.
Oh, great. Next question.
We have time for one more question.
All right, great.
Oh man, last question. I hope it doesn't suck.
You're not alone.
So I'm wondering what the relationship is between actors and writers. So how much influence does an actor have on what's being written for them, and how much is a writer willing to give up?
Let me go first. A newborn baby suckling at its mother's breast is no less dependent than the actor on the writer.
Very nice. I think that the reverse is also true. It doesn't matter how good your script is if you've got a terrible actor reading the lines. As a writer in television, you're often writing to the strengths of your actors and trying to make them look as good as they can, because that makes your work look better. So it's very much intertwined. It's not.
I'll go along with that.
Yeah. Thank you, William Shatner. Everybody, big round of applause.